Hey, 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 Jerome, how you doing?
Doing well, brother. Doing well. Great to see you.
Likewise. Thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. How are you feeling today?
Really, really well. Thank you. How about you?
Doing well. Doing well. I'm currently in Texas right now. Where in the world are you?
Nice. I'm in Connecticut right now.
Okay, cool. Cool. Are you from there originally, or that's just where you've been these days?
No, originally from Germany, from northern Germany, and then 5 years ago I moved to Paraguay in South America,
Okay.
and last October I just moved here to the States.
Wow, wow. Northern Germany. I was born in Stuttgart.
Really?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
For how long did you live
I
there?
mean, I was less than 1 years old when we
Okay.
left, so we flew over to the States. My parents are retired military.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Have you
So
been ever since?
yes, actually, um, back in 2022, I went and took a trip back there, and I was able to see where I was born. They gave me a tour of Stuttgart,
Wow.
and it was actually really nice. It was nice to see that because I don't remember anything from when I was, a baby.
Of
Yeah, yeah.
course.
Yeah, so
That's super cool.
yeah,
Did you like it?
it was interesting. It was different culture, different scenery, different environment, but there were some similarities. I seen people just walking around doing, things that everyday people do. So it felt like I was kind of in, another city, but just in another place.
Right.
But they spoke a different language that I don't speak, but I enjoy the ambiance. I enjoy the atmosphere. Yeah.
Awesome. Glad to hear.
Sure, for sure. So you said how many years ago was it that you came to the States?
Just last October.
Just so very recently.
So about a year now, yes.
Awesome, awesome. Because I think I got connected with you, or I found your page from it was either Dulce or Julie. Juicing
Yeah.
Jules.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So how did you get connected with them?
Um, so with Jules, I connected over Instagram as well, and we worked together a little bit. And then I know Dulce through my good friend John.
Okay.
Do you know John? Jordan
No.
Bordonero, um, Raw Alchemy on Instagram.
It sounds familiar. It sounds familiar. But I'm taking it that you've done collaborations with them, or maybe
Yes,
like
correct.
I know they have like fruit festivals and stuff like that.
Yeah. So John, I know through the Woodstock Fruit Festival, for example. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. And it's very interesting just to hear about all these fruit festivals. The Woodstock Fruit Festival. We're having another festival coming up nearby here in
Right.
Austin, Texas. I want
Right.
to go and check that out.
Mhm.
But I mean, has this been new to you, or has this been a long time coming where you've been a part of this collaborative?
Yeah, it's been a while. So the first time I went to the Woodstock Fruit Festival was in 2016,
Okay.
and I was already into a fruit-based lifestyle for a few years back then.
Hmm.
So I'm on a fruit-based lifestyle now for around 13 years.
Wow. Wow. That is amazing.
Been a journey.
Yeah, I can tell just by your voice, I could tell it's been a journey, you know? And before 13 years ago, I mean, what was your life like back then before going fruit based?
So I'm vegan since I was 18, so a few more years. Um, and so, like it all started out as a kid for me, actually, because I never really liked the taste of meat
Okay.
or any kind of animal products, really.
Hmm.
Um, and then when I was 17, I decided to go vegetarian because then I could make more decisions for myself and didn't have to eat what's on the plate, right?
Okay.
Like it is like as a kid. And then I got introduced to veganism and read a few books about it and made total sense to me. And so I'm always about self experimentation. So I was like, yeah, let's just try it, see how I feel,
Yeah.
And so I slowly transitioned from a vegetarian diet, which was super easy because, like I said, I didn't like the taste of meat anyways. So
Right.
it was not hard for me to cut it out. And then over the course of 1 year, I transitioned from a vegetarian to a vegan
Wow.
diet, which was also at a time where there were not a lot of vegan options in the supermarket. I remember there was like one soy milk and like a block of tofu when it comes to
That
those
was
options.
it.
And that's it. And then, of course, all the produce, which is the best anyways.
Of course.
So, but it was a little more tricky to get into it, to find recipes, etc. back then. Then today there are like just millions of recipes on the internet, right?
Right.
But then over the next few years, I stumbled upon a raw food video on YouTube. I
Hmm.
was like, oh, this sounds very interesting. Let me try that.
Hmm.
So it was like step by step my transition over the course of many years.
Hmm.
And then I learned about a fruit-based lifestyle. So I tried that, and that felt really good to me. That's where I made the most progress when it comes to skin health, digestive health,
Hmm.
as well as mental health. I had some depression beforehand,
Mm.
completely got rid of that after being on a fruit-based diet for, I would say, around half a year, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So while there were a lot of little kids, I was one of them when I was younger that definitely didn't gravitate towards veggies, and fruits. I definitely was not one of those kids when I was growing up. What made you one of those kids that you just felt like there was just something off with animal products and just eating animals in general? Like, what was it inside you that sort of rejected that?
Um, So, my mom told me at some point that when I was a baby, she pretty much only fed me like fresh made juices and smoothies and stuff like that. So maybe that played a role. But then I also lived next door to a butcher. So, and they would slaughter the animals right there. And you could hear them scream and like all the torture that was going on there.
Mm.
So I'm very sure that that shaped my view on that as well. Plus, um, like like the family makes you eat what's on the plate, and I never really liked the taste anyways. So didn't really made sense to eat that for
Yeah.
me. And I always gravitated towards the sweetness of the fruits
Mhm.
and just the juiciness. Always enjoyed that more.
For sure. Thank you for your honesty, brother. Gary, like when you're recalling these events and you're just going down memory lane of hearing a whole slaughterhouse, like just hearing like animals being butchered, being slaughtered, right next to you in the vicinity. I mean, I can only imagine what that did for your mind at that age. I mean, how young were you?
I was I lived there since birth, so until I was, I don't know, probably 8.
Wow. So from birth until 8 years old, you were exposed to this. Like
Yes.
I was only exposed to this literally when I guess around 28 years of age in my late 20s when I saw a documentary called Earthlings. You ever seen Earthlings?
Yep, I have the DVD.
See, so when I saw that documentary, it was game over. It was over for me. Like I felt so disturbed. I felt torn inside myself. There was almost like an identity crisis. It was like, what have I been doing for 28 years of my life? Like, what have I done?
Mhm.
And just the fact that I contributed to that kind of violence, that kind of just it's ridiculous, like millions and millions and millions, slaughtered every year. They say someone made a projection and they said like if humans were slaughtered at the rate that we breed and slaughter the animals, like at the rate that we slaughter animals, that we'd be gone in like 47 days or something.
Oh
Like
yeah.
within
I would
50 days,
I would say at
humans would be
most.
gone.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah. So I can only imagine like just having that exposure at a young age, even though it was very violent, it was very grotesque, it was kind of brutal for you to absorb that trauma. Are you grateful for that, or how do you connect that later in life now that you're living the way that you're living now?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I am grateful for it. I'm grateful for everything that happened in my life because otherwise I wouldn't be where I am right now.
Right.
So I don't believe in um, bad circumstances, if you
Right.
will. I think everything shapes you in a certain way that helps you on your growth. Um, so yeah, if you always have that perspective, there's nothing really bad in that sense.
Hmm. Okay. So, what kind of led to your perspective with the depression? Like, what do you feel were some of the contributing factors that led to depression in that way?
I believe if you just have a bad lifestyle in general, I ate, when I was a teenager, I ate a lot of junk food, lots of candy. Then at some point, a lot of alcohol came into play as well. And all this like negative food basically always has an impact on you, right? And determines what mood you're in. And it's all these like dead foods that like lower your vibration in general. So once you introduce more living foods that have a higher frequency,
Mhm.
that will affect you in the opposite way and like bring you up more and more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, did it have an effect maybe on your family members? Were you one of the only ones that were, fruit based or going in this direction? Did
Yeah.
other people in your circle have that same connection?
No, no one.
No one. You were the only one.
I was the only one. And of course, as it always is in the beginning, people question it and think it's ridiculous and not healthy. It's very um, unsustainable, and you must have a lot of deficiencies, etc. If you do it long term. And there is something to it, and you can definitely develop stuff like that if you are not well informed or you don't have the best produce available, etc. Um, but over the years, the questions stopped and they got more curious. And at this point, actually, a lot of my family members include a lot more fruit and fresh whole
Mhm.
foods into their lives. They started juicing a little bit and making smoothies, and yeah, it's beautiful to see. And then at some point they told me like, now I get it. And that's that's such a great reward to see them like feeling the effects of this lifestyle as well,
Right.
and feeling better and better and getting into a better mood. And yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. How did it make you feel, like knowing that people that were close to you, your loved ones, people that you care about, were sort of adopting, some of the ways of your lifestyle? That how did it feel knowing that you had had some influence?
It feels great. I mean, it's such a good reward. Not necessarily because I felt like I was right or anything, but just seeing them thrive is, of course, you want that. That's why I shared the information with them in the first place, right? So just seeing them like adopting some of it even is great. Yeah, feels awesome.
Beautiful. Beautiful. You mentioned, if you are ill-informed or if you don't really know or understand certain things, that there can be deficiencies. Could you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, I feel like if you some people, they hear about a certain way of living and then they're like, oh, this sounds great, let me just dive into it right away, like 100%. um, I feel like that's maybe not the best approach, because you want to have like a well-rounded, informed lifestyle that you like base your decisions on, like what to eat and how many varieties to eat, etc. I mean, if you go by like just eating the rainbow, that's probably a good approach to have, and not only to do the same mono meals every day for months, even though that sometimes can be a good cleanse, but over the long course, I don't think that's the healthiest approach.
Okay, so balance.
Yeah, exactly. Balance. Or like diving into fasting too soon and for too long is also not that healthy. Um, yeah, you definitely want to do some research.
Wow. When did you feel like your body sort of got its equilibrium or like came into its own, equanimity?
Mhm. I feel like that is a constant process. Um, because you're always adapting to your environment and to your current situation. So it's always kind of like a balance that your body, your whole system tries to adapt to. But when it comes to like major health benefits that I experienced, probably like the most equilibrium I felt was like 2 years into a more fruit-based lifestyle. That's where I really noticed like my digestion was just flawless and everything worked well. I had tremendous amounts of energy. You know, back then I also used to manage a gym in Germany. And so I was working out every day.
Okay.
And I had that comparison because I started working out when I was a kid because my dad owned the gym. So, and I had this like comparison of being on a standard diet, then being on a vegetarian, then vegan, then raw vegan, then fruit-based diet. And with each step I took, I felt more energy, and the recovery was quicker, because your body doesn't have to process so much stuff that is hard on your system. So in that way, it totally made sense, and it was a good confirmation for me as well.
Okay. Beautiful. Coming from a fitness background, even like training and just being in the gym for so long, like, did you come against people who were wondering, like, where are you getting your protein? How are you surviving? How are you thriving? How do you have these muscles? Like, how are you able to stay fit? Did you come against that kind of perception?
Of course. Especially at the gym, that's like one of the major things, right? Like everyone's into such a like high protein diet, of course. And yeah, but it was great actually, because I was able to talk to a lot of people about it and tell them like, you actually don't need that much protein to build muscle and to be strong, right? Of course, you need a certain amount of calories, and every food you consume has amino acids. So you just eat enough calories and maybe some more greens or veggies in general, and like something like hemp seeds and stuff like that, which are higher in amino acids if you want to go a little more. And then you do stuff like watermelon, which helps to prevent muscle soreness, etc. And you have lots of anti-inflammatory components in those kind of foods. A lot of people got it, but very few practiced it afterwards as well. They were like, ah, yeah, whatever, you know. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting experience working at a gym and having this kind of approach, because I was working out at that time probably like 3 hours a day on a fruit-based diet. And
3 hours, you said?
yep,
Wow.
yep.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So then what would you say is your, the rationale, or what you figured out actually is building the muscle. You know, if what people typically think is building the muscle isn't really what builds the muscle, what builds the muscle?
Well, you definitely need amino acids to build muscle mass. But you get it from those kind of foods as well, from
Okay.
whole plant foods. Otherwise, gorillas and all these other animals wouldn't be able to build muscle, right? Like all these animals that only eat plants. Where's that coming from?
Right. Right. Man. And so when it comes to exercise, exercising for 3 hours in the gym, like what would be like your routine? Like calisthenics or, you know, a lot
Yeah,
of
I mean
things
throughout the day, not like 3 hours at a time.
dispersed,
Yeah,
dispersed.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I would do yoga probably in the morning for like an hour. Then I would do calisthenics for the rest of the amount of time, probably. Calisthenics and some weightlifting. Yep.
Sure, for sure. When it came to yoga, did you have any like, you know, spirituality within your journey, like within your lifestyle? Were there things that like meditation or just coming into union with yourself, with your spirit? Like, did yoga connect on that level or purely on the physical level?
Um, that was really an interesting experience as well because I was never really drawn to spirituality or spiritual practices or anything like that before I transitioned to a more fruit-based lifestyle. Um, I meditated here and there because I remember like in school, actually our like religion teacher did a meditation with us one time and I had a pretty good experience. So I kept doing it, but just for like more like relaxation purposes, etc. And then once I transitioned to a more fruit-based lifestyle, all of that like out of a sudden was like kind of like downloading into my system and opening me up more and more towards the spiritual side of our lives. And so I really started a routine when it comes to meditation, breath work,
Hmm.
and yoga as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very, very interesting. And also perceived everything more in union than in the separateness we usually feel.
For sure. For sure. When it comes to energy, because you talked, Gary, about like just having this abundance of energy, were you ever, did you ever have any phases years ago on caffeine? Like, did you ever have any phase drinking energy drinks or anything of that nature?
Oh yeah, like when I was a teenager, up into my early 20s, I would say, when I was still drinking as well. Um, I had a lot of energy drinks, and at some point I started drinking coffee as
Mhm.
well. But then also when I became more fruit-based, I stopped with all of it, like no stimulants or anything. Now I do a little bit of like high quality cacao
Hmm.
sometimes here and there, which feels nice just to have like a little like stimulation in that sense. But it's I did some research on it, and this type of cacao is very low in caffeine and has more theobromine, which provides your body with more oxygen and thus more energy.
Okay.
And so it's not as taxing on the nervous system and works more on your cardiovascular system.
Got
Yeah.
you. Got you. Because when it comes to the feeling state that you used to have on caffeine, how do you compare it to the energy that you have with just fruits?
It's kind of similar in a way, but without this like jitteriness, this like shakiness, and without the fast heartbeat. It's more like you have the same amount of energy and clarity that people seek from caffeine, but at the same time you're very calm inside.
Okay.
Yeah,
So it's more on the inside instead of on the outside.
exactly. Yeah, it's a pretty like more like meditative state, I would say, almost
Hmm.
on a natural basis. Yeah.
Yeah. What about another question that we get a lot is bone health. You know, what ideas do you have surrounding healthy bones and what to do with the bones? Because I don't know about you, but me growing up, there were just so many things like programming, milk this, milk that. We need this milk, we need that milk, we need this calcium for this and that. What are your ideas on all of this?
Sure. Um, I mean, yeah, we need calcium. It's the most abundant mineral in our body, makes up our bones, etc. But there are so many components when it comes to that, and milk is definitely not one of them. That's contributing to great bone health and density because it's actually leaching calcium from our body,
Mm.
especially like when it comes to the highly pasteurized milk, which is very acidic in chemistry, and everything that's acidic, our body doesn't really want, which you notice right away. Like if you drink a glass of milk, most people like 5-10 minutes afterwards go like, and that's a sign that your body produced mucus to encapsulate this harmful acidic chemistry to protect itself, right? And most people consume a lot of acidic foods on a daily basis. So your body builds up more and more mucus inside and clogs up the lymphatic system, the great sewer system of the body. And then we also have another buffer system when it comes to acidity, and that is calcium. Calcium is very alkaline. So when you consume a lot of milk, pasteurized milk, then your body will take calcium from your bones, from your connective tissue, etc., to buffer the acidity. So it's not such a good calcium source.
Crazy.
And you can see that in different studies as well, where they compared countries where they have a high dairy consumption, and they looked into their osteoporosis counts as well. And the countries with the highest dairy consumption, like Norway as well, plus Norway is also very dark in the winter, so they don't get enough vitamin D, which
Mm.
also plays a huge role in calcium utilization in the body.
Mm.
So that these two combinations are very, very bad for bone health. So they have very high counts of osteoporosis, for example.
Okay. So then you mentioned sunlight, like, well, you didn't mention sunlight specifically, but oh yeah, you did. So vitamin D with the
Yeah.
sunlight. So would that be a way to reverse like osteoporosis would be getting more vitamin D, or what would you say would be a way to heal that? Because I know the bones are much, different than we're talking just muscles and tissue and fascia. Yeah.
Oh, sure. I mean, yeah, a good way to prevent things like osteoporosis are getting enough sunlight for sure as number one, um, so that your body can actually utilize calcium better,
Okay.
making sure that your parathyroid is working well, and um, that you don't consume a lot of acidic foods, which leach more calcium out of the system. So you want to stick more to your fruits, veggies, leafy greens, in a fresh and raw form
Okay.
that then also provide you with some more calcium.
You know what's crazy, brother? It's like just hearing that, it's like a slap in the face when you're coming up, you're so young, you're eating, frosted flakes, you're eating Lucky Charms, you're eating Cinnamon Toast Crunch, you're eating Fruity Loops, you're eating, honeycomb, you're eating all of these things with all of this milk every morning, watching
Yep.
cartoons and just mindlessly eating. You don't know, you're so young. Where do you feel like this programming just kind of systemically gets embedded, the seed gets planted in all of society to where we're all drinking this substance that we think is giving us something, but what you're saying is that it's actually leaching that something away from the body?
Mm-hmm. Well, the programming starts very early on, right? And even like your parents, they look for advice like from doctors, which don't get a lot of nutritional training actually, unfortunately. But those people would recommend more dairy products, for example, for bone density. Um, and then it's on the advertisements on TV, and kids watch a lot of TV, and then they see the cereals, and of course you drink it, you eat it with milk, right?
Yeah.
No question about it. And so if we're taught from so early on, then you don't really question it because that's just what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I even had it in my comic books. Like I used to read these Sonic the Hedgehog comic books,
Mm-hmm.
and in between the pages, it would have like athletes like Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan and all of these athletes with the milk mustache.
Yeah.
They would say got milk or does a body good, and like just I remember all of the subliminal programming as I'm just reading this comic book, and just in a young impressionable mind is very malleable. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. 100%. Wow, that's crazy.
So you didn't have any of that, like a lot of those influences growing up, you didn't have that?
Oh, definitely I had. Yeah, absolutely. I definitely also ate the cereal with milk
Okay.
for many years.
Okay.
um, but yeah, at some point, it's like, yeah, no, I don't want that.
Right. Right. Did you have to reverse any ailments or illnesses or any things in your body that contributed to, or were you fortunate enough to catch fruit-based living early enough to not have to battle through anything like that?
I would say, I mean, I definitely had some things going on, like depression, like I said. Like pretty bad digestion, skin health, fatigue, brain fog, things like that.
Hmm.
But nothing like super serious that got me into the lifestyle.
Okay. Does it, when it comes to something super serious, do you feel like for certain people, it has to be not just inspiration, but desperation? Like, do you feel like desperation is called for to lead somebody in a new direction?
Oh, absolutely. It always has to work that way. Yeah.
Really?
I mean, not always. If someone is smart enough to catch, for example, their thoughts early on, and to like, oh, what am I thinking about all the time? If you are in a constant state of negative thinking, that will create negative emotions, that will create certain hormonal releases, stress hormones in the body, which then trigger your genes and your genetic weaknesses, for example, as well. And that alone can lead to illness,
Yeah.
especially if you are living a life where you don't feel fulfilled, or you don't feel loved or supported, etc. Right?
Yeah.
So, and a lot of people do jobs they don't like, and they spend so much time there, and it's very frustrating. And then an illness comes around, which puts them at a stopping point, and it's there for them. It doesn't happen to them. It happens, basically, that's my perspective. It happens out of love, so that you can rethink your life. You have the time to do that, because otherwise you will never have the time. You're just in your routine.
Hmm.
So it puts you at a stopping point, and then you can think about like, oh, what do I really want? Like, how would I feel fulfilled?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And then you can act upon it, hopefully.
Right. Right.
But a lot of people, when you see people that have cancer, they can't do anything else anymore, right? And then they change their entire lifestyle. They change their outlook on life. They change their behavior towards other people. They change their way of eating. They do more of the things they love to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you continue doing that, at some point there is no need for the cancer to occur anymore.
Right.
So that was the lesson in that then.
Right.
And that can have many forms, of course, can be any kind of illness.
Yeah. It's so interesting the way you describe it, and thank you for these breakdowns. Like, first of all, thank you, Brother Gary. Like these beautiful breakdowns, they're well illustrated, they're well thought out, they're well researched.
Thank you.
You know, like you're just very thorough in your explanations that just bring everything down to earth, make it practical, make it logical. You know, like thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
It's very refreshing. So, you know, when it comes to doing what you love and having that be the vibration that lifts, you know, that lifts you and shifts you, you know, were there any affirmations but like along with the meditation, were there things that you would recite to yourself or things that you would hear or things you would write down to get your mind in a more positive mind state or positive frequency?
Let's see. Sorry about that. That's a good question. I think it is helpful to just observe your thoughts, write your thoughts down like what they are, to really dive deep and dig up your core beliefs that usually are formed in the first years of your life, you know, and then you can really start seeing like, oh, how is my view on myself and the world, and what are my expectations, etc. And a lot of times we have these negative beliefs programmed into our system. So we have to find out what that is, which I now help people do that as well. And then you can really change it. Otherwise, it's always just surface level. You know, it's like taking medication. It's like kind of getting rid of the symptoms, but you're never getting rid of the cause, the root cause. So it's the same with your mind. You have to dig up those core beliefs.
Right. Right. So it's like in order to change the fruit, we first have to change the root.
Yes, correct. Yeah, 100%. And so lots of people, that's a good analogy. Lots of people are just focused on the fruits. They just want to harvest the fruits, like nice things in life, without focusing on the roots, which would be your state of being, like how you feel in this moment.
Right.
And if you're just focused on this moment, feeling the best you can by whatever method works best for you. If it's you can even think, your thoughts are free, so you can think about whatever that helps you to elevate your state of being in this moment, right? You can think about something that happened in the past, like a really happy thing you experienced, or you can imagine something in the future that you would like to experience and make that as real as possible. And if you kind of like do a meditation just doing that, it will immediately like elevate your state of being, and you can start smiling as well. That helps a lot, always gets you in a better mood right away.
Always.
You know, and if you're always focused on that, then things will start developing from there, and automatically.
Beautiful. Automatically. So it sounds like what we focus on the longest eventually is what grows the strongest.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So it's where our focus goes, our energy grows. And you mentioned that when people are doing something adverse or to the contrary, like if they're living a lifestyle that doesn't enliven them, that doesn't give them joy, that, you know, doesn't make them feel alive or feel that blissful feeling or just have love towards what they're doing. If they kind of hate their job or they hate their circumstances or they hate their situation, when cancer you said comes along, or or just debilitating diseases or illnesses, you were saying that it's necessary. Like you said, it happens out of love, that it's not
Yeah.
happening to you, but it's happening for you.
Hmm.
Do you feel like do you feel it's happening from somewhere, like is there a meaning to it all, like a higher meaning? Because when you said it's out of love, it felt like the universe or God or source, or where is the love when somebody's going through that?
Um, yeah, you can call it whatever you want. To me, that always means the same thing. Like you can call it a higher intelligence, whatever,
Mhm.
universe, God. Um, but in my opinion, there is like this higher intelligence that um, also wants the best for you, but and guides you kind of through certain mechanisms like your emotions um, to make certain decisions. But a lot of times our ego gets in the way and we're very insistent on our beliefs and perspectives. So we don't get the message really.
Mm.
Um, it's a good practice to do actually. It's like just observing your emotions and your reactions to certain circumstances or situations. And um, in my opinion, whenever you feel something bad, like if a negative emotion comes up,
Mm-hmm.
kind of means that you hold on to a wrong perspective about the situation. Just because, I mean, it's a human response, but it is because you can't see in the future and you can't really see what happens next, which a lot of times is something very nice, but at first it had to something had to happen that like wakes you up to it,
Right.
to change something. And like probably you had that experience at some point in your life where you were going through something challenging, and you're like, oh, I don't like this, like it doesn't feel good. And then 3, 4, 5 years later you look back at it and like, oh, if that didn't happen, I wouldn't be where I am right now. I wouldn't have learned that lesson.
Right.
So in retrospect,
Yeah.
it's something positive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if we can adopt that perspective, everything's happening for me, not to me, then, like I said, there's nothing really negative, nothing really bad, and you can right away feel that positivity about it, and see like, oh, this is happening for some reason to get me somewhere.
Okay.
That's more in alignment with what I want, actually.
Right. More in alignment. Okay.
Does that
So
make sense?
yeah, it makes sense. It makes perfect sense, So when it came to, it's interesting, just talking about these things, like the higher intelligence, you know? Do you feel like there were times in your life, or there are times in your life where you're more connected with that higher intelligence?
There is an illusion happening sometimes where you feel like you're not as connected, but in my opinion, you're always connected. If you wouldn't be connected, you wouldn't be
Wow.
here.
Wow. Okay. So there is no, of course, there is no separation.
Sorry.
What's your dog's name? Hank.
Hank.
Hank. Hank.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Like Hank Aaron. Awesome.
Yeah. I'm watching him right now. It's not my dog,
Oh,
but
okay. So you said there's no separation. So where do you feel is the disconnect? Like, where do you feel people do feel that separation where we feel they need to connect with a higher intelligence?
so we feel disconnected if we are very insistent on our negative beliefs and perspectives, and we feel like, oh, we're right with it. Like this happened to me, Why did this happen to me? I don't want it. It just feels bad. And then you feel disconnected because you feel like, oh, if God is looking over me, like, why would he let that happen? Right? Um, in fact, God is more neutral, in my opinion. It always you always have the free will, right? Making any kind of choices, and in that sense, oh my god, so sorry about that. Hope you can still hear me.
Kind of, kind of.
Kind of. Wait, let
Yeah.
me see if I can go somewhere else.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. But you were onto something there. You were onto a thought.
All right, I'll go outside.
Okay, much better.
Nice weather, anyways.
Much 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 better, much better.
Good. Um, Sorry, where was I?
Yeah, you were talking about, well, first of all, you said there's no separation, but when certain things happen, not to us, but for us, you're saying that God has a neutrality. Like there's a neutrality
Yeah,
with the higher intelligence that
correct.
it's not like it loves us less or loves us more. You're saying it's neutral.
Yeah, correct. It always loves us the same way, no matter what, but it respects our free will. So we can make decisions that feel terrible to us, but we have the free choice to do the opposite and be more in alignment. Um, but yeah, I feel like God doesn't only let good things happen or that we feel like that are good, because that's also a matter of perspective, right? What someone feels like might be good seems bad to another person,
Okay,
and the other way around.
for sure, for sure. And you didn't grow up very religious at all?
Not at all, no.
Okay.
I was not really into it.
When it comes to iridology, I saw on your bio, that you have a thing for iridology. When did you get into that?
So I learned about it at the Woodstock Fruit Festival in 2016, and I just happened to walk by someone who did these readings for people there. And I observed him doing that a little bit because I never heard about it before. And uh, I just I was just so fascinated by him being able to tell the people so much about themselves without knowing them. And I was like, oh, I have to learn about this right away. So after the festival, I ordered a bunch of books about it and started studying, and then practiced on my friends and family. And then in 2018, I took a class with Dr. Robert Morse, which probably a lot of people here know. And now, 2 years ago, I started studying with a teacher called Tony Miller in Australia. Her knowledge about iridology is very up to date, very fascinating, very in depth. So I learned a bunch more about it since then, and I love it. I love that you can't only tell people about their genetic heritage and what to be aware of, like how to live, make certain lifestyle changes, but it also goes very deeply into our personality. So we can tie that back to our core beliefs, probably. So, like if someone, just as a brief example, if someone has some orange in their iris, orange is produced by the pancreas. The pancreas is a very emotional organ. It's connected to feeling loved and respected and accepted and supported, especially by our family, by our parents. So if someone has a lot of orange in their irises, that could potentially indicate, and I would ask the person, of course, about it, if they didn't get that love or feeling supported by their parents.
Mm.
You know?
Wow. All of that just with the
Yep,
eyes. Like the eyes have it.
they have it.
Wow. Wow. So it's like they do say that it's the windows to the soul, you know?
Correct. Yep. Yeah, it's the window to our entire system.
Entire
That's
system. You can see it
literally
all in
how
someone's
simple.
eyes.
Yep,
Wow.
correct.
Wow. What were you able to notice, or maybe what was someone else able to notice when they took a deep look into your eyes that really kind of blew you away?
So I did my own analysis
Okay.
in that sense, and there are different structural iris types, and these types go with certain um, personalities and certain lifestyles, etc. And for me personally, um, the type that I have is usually very drawn to stimulants like coffee, cacao, and energy drinks and stuff like that. So I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But it's very bad for them because for me, the nervous system is the primary nurture point. So I don't want to do things that overtax the nervous
Right.
system. But then also when it comes to personality, for example, I was very fascinated by that. Was like my type is usually very motivated, dedicated, ambitious, always has multiple projects going on at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like thriving off of the stress of that and finishing deadlines just on time, etc. And that's very accurate for me.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. I love that you did that analysis on yourself, that you were able to really do a deep dive into your own eyes and observe yourself in a totally new way.
Totally. And then, of course, you can see there are like sometimes some openings in the fiber structure of the iris, which indicate that we're related to someone who had issues in those areas. And that's also very accurate when I took a look at my eyes, because I knew a little bit about my family health history and where the issues were, and I was able to see that being reflected in my own eyes as well. So I know what to take care of and be aware of.
Got you. Got you. So, what would be your number one, I guess, recommendation for somebody who similarly, like they've had issues with caffeine in the past, they've really taxed their adrenals, their nervous system is really out of whack, and they want to recover from all of this and they want to just get themselves away from it safely, in a safe way. What would be your suggestion?
So first of all, I would say slowly starting to decrease the amount of caffeine
So,
you
not
would.
just cold, not just cold.
No, I mean there are people who need that, but for most people it is easier for their body and also their mind to slowly adapt and to just wean off of certain substances.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also exchange it. So, for example, if you drink, let's say, like 2 or 3 cups of coffee a day, you can switch to something like maca or matcha, I mean, or cacao, for
Right.
example, and then slowly decrease that. And then at the same time, something that really nourishes and enhances adrenal function is licorice root tea. So the same time start to implement those kind of things, but then also eat just more um, fresh, raw, vibrant foods that nourish our tissues
Mm-hmm.
and give us more energy for our nervous system at the same time as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And lastly, one of the last things is, there's been a lot of research done that kind of is like a counter argument for fruit juices. When you say you have all this energy and you're posting pictures of yourself, you're very fit, you're very athletic, and you're holding like watermelon juice and you're holding like other juices, and somebody's saying to themselves, but what about the sugar? Like what about if you have issues with I don't know what it's called, like hypoglycemic, or what about the sugar intake, and they're comparing it with the sugar in other drinks, and they're saying, well, what's the difference in the body when it comes to an abundance of sugar that you're drinking with the juice?
Yeah.
Like, what argument would you have against that?
Well, first of all, sugar is the primary fuel for the human body. You can't get around it. We need sugar for all of our cells to produce energy. Um, so even if you even if you have like a high fat diet, your body will convert it into sugar. It's just a harder way to get to it, because there's more processing happening than if you eat just like simple sugar from fruits, for example. And then you can't really compare fruit sugar with, let's say, refined white sugar.
Like soda,
Because,
like
sorry?
sodas and stuff like that?
Yeah, that too. But in general, just like processed sugar. Because with fruits you get so much more than just the sugar. You get lots of hydration, lots of water, lots of fiber if you eat the fruit, lots of enzymes because you don't heat the fruit usually. You get all kinds of minerals and vitamins and electromagnetic energy as well. So you get a whole package, which you don't get with just refined sugar. So it acts very differently on the body than if you eat just white table sugar.
Right.
It doesn't have anything anymore. It's just empty calories, basically. And then if you look at people who have, for example, type 2 diabetes, where doctors say, oh, that's a sugar problem. No, it's not. It's a problem of dietary fat. So the fat content they eat is too high so that the sugar can't be metabolized properly, which then raises the blood sugar. So once people drop the dietary fat or sugar, if they completely get rid of the sugar, then, and they're on a keto diet, for example, then that might work as well. But usually it's better to increase the sugar but lower the fat content. And I was able to help some people with type 2 diabetes to get rid of it so far within like 2 months, dropping their blood sugar from 500 to a normal range. That's just by eating fruit, really, or a fruit-based lifestyle. Yeah. So you can't really argue with those kind of experiences, you know?
No, no. Oh man, thank you for this, Gary. I love that you gracefully debunk these things. Like, it's very graceful the way that you debunk these things like that, where we've heard so many times in so many ways, and people just don't know what to believe. Like, they're hearing from another source and from another source. But I just enjoy like your confidence in what you've learned, what you've experimented with, and what you've seen with your own eyes. You know? Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, it's always individual. You know, we are all at different stages. We need a little bit of a different approach sometimes, but our human physiology is all the same. So kind of works the same way, you know, but yeah,
Awesome.
it's good stuff. It's always good to experiment with your lifestyle. I always encourage people doing that because you need contrast experiences. If you're always living the same lifestyle since your childhood, you will never get any different experiences. So making those changes just for a few weeks, just see how you feel, you know, is always worth it. And then you more and more you can refine like a diamond, basically.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is what makes me feel good, and this actually doesn't make me feel good. But you need it because most people feel okay, right? They feel kind of okay, kind of good, people say sometimes, but they don't know how good they can feel actually, because they're never going out of their own range out of their own lifestyle that they lived for the past 40 years.
I agree. So this has been such a testimony, you know. Please let people know, Gary, where can they find your services? Where can they find your offerings? What you have available for people to find?
Uh, so you can find me on Instagram and Facebook under Fruitful Solution. And that's also my website is fruitfulsolution.com, where you can find my iridology and holistic health coaching services. And yeah, just follow me there and stay connected.
Awesome. All right, we'll stay connected and just thank you once again for coming on. Y'all definitely go give Gary a follow. Fruitful
Yeah.
Solution. Fruitful Solution, you said
Yep.
.com?
That's it.
Beautiful, beautiful. Hey, brother, you have an amazing rest of your day. And
Thank you. You too. Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
I'm glad. I'm glad. And shout out to Hank. Shout out to Hank for making a guest appearance.
Absolutely.
All
Amazing.
right. Take care,
All
brother.
right. You too. Take care. Bye.